breaking into, trespassing to get into the peripherals of Skinwalker Ranch. And then, trying to escape with, UFOs chasing him. And I thought, well, he's going to just be in all kinds of trouble, And I kind of gave up at that point because it was just it just didn't seem like something I wanted to continue with.
Mm-hmm.
But because I do want documentation, like you, show me something.
Yeah. I should be from Missouri. Show me.
Yeah.
Look, I've heard thousands of stories over all these years. Thousands. I've got 20 or 30 binders of reports in my library. Some are fascinating, make you sit back and think, or like Frank said, who needs to read? You can binge watch reality TV, learn everything, and be an expert in 3 weeks. Frank, you're the man.
He is the man.
But that's true. And, they're using FLIR devices, right? A lot of these people on the field today.
I have to stop you.
Okay.
We're at the top of the hour. How does this happen to us?
Happens all the time.
It does.
It's all Frank's fault.
Every time
Frank's
we
fault.
talk, it is Frank's fault. We're just going to let that roll. So this is our top of the hour news break. You are listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I hope that you find something good to hear. I hope that it's not all negative Nelly stuff. So y'all just enjoy.
NPR is made possible by Microsoft, who wants you to know that the newest member of the Microsoft Surface family, the Surface Pro 6, has up to 13.5 hours of battery life and an 8th-gen Intel Core processor, so you can work for as long as you want to, wherever work takes you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Jack Speer. On Capitol Hill, the pieces appear to be falling into place for a short-term government funding bill. As NPR's Tamara Keith reports, if President Trump signs it, this would avert a partial government shutdown, but he hasn't tipped his hand yet.
The temporary government funding bill would run through early February, punting the fight over border wall funding to a new Congress. In an interview with NPR, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, bemoaned that a Republican-led Congress was choosing the path of least resistance by going for another short-term spending bill. But, she said, the president is looking at it.
And I will allow him to make the announcements on whether he's signing it or when he signs it. But don't ever bet against Donald Trump, and don't ever think that he is backing down or becoming wishy-washy on a central promise to have border security and to build that wall.
That funding bill Trump is looking at does not contain border wall funding. Tamara Keith, NPR News, the White House.
President Trump is ordering the withdrawal of all U.S. forces in Syria. In a message on Twitter just ahead of the holidays, the president citing the defeat of ISIS in Syria as the reason for the pullout, which is expected to be relatively rapid and involve approximately 2,000 U.S. ground troops. Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky says he favors the move.
I'm very supportive of the president's declaration. I'm very supportive of him bringing the troops out.
However, other lawmakers had a less upbeat view of the move, including Florida Senator Marco Rubio.
I don't know who advised that this decision be made, but it's a terrible mistake, and unfortunately I think we're going to pay a price for it if it's not reversed.
Trump's tweet followed a series of news reports detailing a withdrawal of U.S. forces from Syria within the next 30 days. Trump in his message offered no other details on the administration's larger plan for Syria. Today, markets fell after the Federal Reserve raised interest rates for the fourth time this year. Rates are now at the highest level since the beginning of the Great Recession. NPR's Emily Sullivan has more.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average swung dramatically as the Fed raised interest rates but also pulled back on future rate hikes, acknowledging economic softening in the coming year. Overall, the Dow closed down 1.5% after falling precipitously while Fed Chair Jerome Powell spoke. The S&P 500 also fell 1.5%, and the Nasdaq Composite fell a little over 2%. The Fed moved key benchmark rates up a quarter point to a range of 2.25% to 2.5%. This move will affect all kinds of borrowing, from mortgages to credit cards. Emily Sullivan, NPR News, Washington.
Today's move by Fed policymakers was unanimous. Checking the numbers on Wall Street, the Dow dropped 351 points today, ending the session at 23,323. The Nasdaq was down 147 points to 6636. The S&P dropped 39 points to 2506. You're listening to NPR. The former chief credit officer of the only financial institution to be criminally charged in connection with the federal bank bailout program has been sentenced to 4.5 years in prison. 59-year-old William North also ordered to pay a $100,000 fine for helping to conceal the bank's troubled condition in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. The sentencing comes after two other former execs of the bank were also handed prison terms, including former Wilmington Trust president Robert Harrah Jr. Prosecutors say the defendants misled regulators and investors about the bank's financial condition before it was hastily sold in 2011. With a pair of appointments made this week, it's official. Nevada will become the first state to have a female-majority legislature. NPR's Danielle Kurtzleben has more.
County commissioners in the state just appointed 2 women to fill the seats of state assembly members who are leaving to fill or run for other positions. With that, the state legislature will have women filling 32 of the state's 63 seats. The first state where women will hit that 50% threshold. A record number of women candidates ran in the midterm elections, and a record number, more than 1,800, were elected to state legislatures nationwide. However, women have a long way to go before hitting 50% nationally. According to the Rutgers University Center for American Women in Politics, women will hold just shy of 29% of all state legislative seats next year. Danielle Kurtzleben, NPR News.
German automaker Volkswagen says it's changing its pay system for senior managers, dropping personal performance bonuses in favor of a system whereby the overall company performance is reflected in variable pay. The new system will take effect next year. I'm Jack Spear, NPR News in Washington.
Welcome back to WBHM Digital Broadcasting. We are out of Birmingham, Alabama. I am Kat Hobson. I'm your host for Paranormal Experience, and I am joined tonight by my friend and one of my favorite researchers, Butch Witkowski. And I have to tell you that I have been enjoying our conversation so much because normally we do spend most of our time discussing cryptids. We don't really get much into the ufology side of things, and that's really one of your main strong suits.
Yeah, that's where I started.
I know.
And still doing it.
And it's always interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you, it never lost that for me. It's always been interesting to me. I mean, even if I'm reading a case that's a hoax, and I know it's a hoax, I'll get interested in it because I'll go like, wow, they really took their time with this one. You know? We have 11 groups affiliated with us around the country and 2 in Europe. So we get a lot of really wild stuff. And it is so much to the betterment of our investigations when we have a lot of information and we have a lot of people we can go to and we have a lot of places we can, send people to. So if somebody calls me in Missouri and they see something and they need to talk to an investigator, I can send one. I have one in Florida. I can send one. Got one in Texas. I can send one. I can send one. So, it's not like they're dealing with us, but they have, they may not have anybody in their area. I mean, in northeastern Canada, I do a lot of stuff for folks up there. Not that I'm going to go up to northeastern Canada, but I can tell them what they need to do. And we do that a lot. People will be doing something on their own. They get to a point where they hit that stop sign and they just have no idea what's the next step. And I tell people on every show I've ever been on and every conference I've ever spoken at, hey, you need information. If you just want to know what kind of equipment to use, or you want to know how to do this, or how to take a print or whether it's a fingerprint, a footprint, or a print off a cadaver, we'll tell you how to do it. You want to take DNA swabs, I'll tell you where to get them. If you can't get them, I'll send you one. I'll send you a kit. So right now, one of the things I'm going to finally do, which I've been planning on doing, but things here at the new house have been driving me nuts. I have a spare room, which is about the same size as my office here, and I'm going to put a lab in there. So I'll be able to do a lot more stuff there in my own lab instead of sending it out.
Well, I was going to ask you about that because you mentioned, DNA swabs and that type of thing. There have been 2 separate issues this year, well, in the past year, relevant to DNA sampling being done of 2 different anomalous situations. One being the Peruvian elongated skulls, and the other being the tiny mummy that is out of that desert, whose name is just fleeing my mind right now.
The Atacama.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
You talk about the Atacama?
Thank you. Yes.
That's the Iraq desert, yeah.
But in both of those instances, the DNA... Oh, and the Star Child skull. 3 instances in the past year.
Yes.
In all of those instances, before the reports were generated, the DNA technicians had said in pre-statements, these do not appear to be human.
Mm-hmm.
And these are all mainstream DNA places.
Mm-hmm.
When the final report came out, especially in the case of the mummy, they had said that, it wasn't fetal, that the joints were fused, it was obviously weight-bearing, and all these other things. And then when the actual written report came out, they went completely back from all the things that they had stated before. And have you ever heard of any instance where a DNA lab even came back saying it's inconclusive?
Yes, once.
With what situation was that?
There was a sample taken at the Presque Isle landing, and it was separate from the pile of goo that was on the sand, which accidentally didn't even sink into the sand. It just laid on top.
Oh.
So there was some fibrous material, could have been hair, could have been skin, near a branch on a tree where these individuals, these 2 couples, said they saw something standing there watching them. And then this thing finally, that disappeared and took off, but they took DNA samples. And that was done at the Bethlehem, Pennsylvania State Police Lab, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And the DNA came back inconclusive. It wasn't human, and they didn't know what it was. There was no explanation for it, but it was inconclusive as far as what it was. I carry
but
DNA
was it
kits.
known?
No, unknown. I carry DNA kits only because for the bipedal canine stuff, I can get, if I urine or blood or something, whatever I find, I can swab and seal it, and I take my stuff to the university lab, bio lab, and they do it for me, and they don't charge me, so I'm happy.
Well, that would make me happy. That's expensive stuff.
Oh yeah. And I'm trying out a new DNA system where the swab already has the water inside of it. All you do is break it, just like smelling salts. You remember those?
I do.
Only it's a swab, and then after you take the swab, you put it in a protective container and seal it. It's just and I get 50 of them for, I think it was $49 or something. So we have some in the cars. Everybody's got them in their kits. They don't freeze. We got a bunch of them in the truck. So, but then again, I have a fingerprint kit in the truck, and people say, "Why would you carry a fingerprint kit?" Well, we had two cases in 1 year where there were large fingerprints left on a vehicle. One set on a window and another set on a hood. And when we took the fingerprints, because we had a kit, they came back